you start the cycle all over again, where you go back to attract, develop, and retain. Very expensive to hire a new employee. The time and energy it takes to interview, to recruit, maybe you fly them to your organization for 2 or 3 days, you put them up in a hotel. Very expensive process. But Google execs say that one good hire is worth 300 times that of an average hire. And to this day, the Google CEO, he approves every single hire. I forget how many applications they said they get. It's insane. It's like 2 million applications. I don't know if that's in a month or in a year, but it's an insane number of applications that they get. And so thinking about all of the resources that are devoted in an organization to go through every single one of those resumes and decide who to bring in and ultimately fill that position. But one bad hire sets a company back. And there's a difference between even an average hire and a good and great hire. So we're going to talk about the hiring process, both what it's like to interview and be interviewed. And we're focusing around a very common technique called behavioral-based interviews. Anyone heard of this technique before? Nope? All right, well, you're learning something new here in the next few days. So this is the most common tool for managers to use, is behavioral-based. So our agenda, what I'm going to walk you through is first is what is behavioral-based interviewing? What does it look like? And then we'll focus on the manager's perspective. So how do they set up the interview? What are different interview structures or formats? And legal requirements, because you can get in big legal trouble if you ask the wrong questions and be sued for discrimination and all other kinds of lawsuits if you aren't equipped with this. And so these are some of the things that Karini and Karina, when they came and spoke to us, that they had to do was write a job description and then screen employees. And this is going to be processes you'll likely be involved in management. And then as an individual, how do you nail the interview? So that's kind of our setup. But I came up with this verse, Isaiah 40, to give the appropriate weight to what this is for hiring people. You are helping influence decisions where people may pick up an entire family. They may pull their kids out of a school system, tear them away from their friend groups, their social community, and relocate to a new living situation, into a new city. And so there's an appropriate amount of weight that should be held to making these kinds of decisions, as there are in firing people, or termination, or politically correct term in management. But there's not just weight on the manager's end of things, there's also weight on you as you apply for jobs. It can be exhausting. Applying for jobs is in and of itself like a full-time job. You are putting yourself out there on a piece of paper and hoping that someone will give you a chance to meet face-to-face, to talk about how you can contribute. And there's a lot of uncertainty involved on both ends of the spectrum, for the manager, the hiring manager, and for the candidate. So to have an appropriate respect for the weight of that process, but also to recognize the Lord's hand in that process. And so I thought I would share this as an encouragement. Maybe you'll remember it one day when you're hiring a new candidate, or maybe you'll remember it when you're searching for jobs. You're probably familiar with it. So Isaiah 40, 28 through 31 says, "Have you not known, have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He does not faint or grow weary. His understanding is unsearchable. He gives power to the faint, and to him who has no might he increases strength. Even youth shall faint and be weary, and young men shall fall exhausted. But they who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not be faint." And so this imagery of the Lord's strength through all of that process is something that's been tremendously meaningful to me, even as we've gone through quite a few new hires in our College of Business. So we had several retirements all happen at the same time. that turnover process, it's a lot to handle. And so having that appropriate reliance that God will bring the right people in at the right time and trusting that as we take action steps. And I was just really proud of the way our college held out for the right people. As we were looking to fill different positions and director positions, we had to close the interview down and reopen the interview about 2 times. Because we brought in some candidates, we flew them in, but there was something off. There was something not quite right about either the culture fit or what we were trying to accomplish that position. And so, but that's taxing, that's emotionally taxing and tiresome to wait for that right person. But I think there is a healthy amount of waiting that needs to happen on both ends of the spectrum to go where God wants you to go. So let's get into interviews. So I'm going to lighten the mood a little bit here. This video link is what a behavioral-based interview is not, okay? This might sound like it, but it's not. I've shown leader skills in here before, right?
So I brought some resumes.
Oh, great, yeah. Let me get one of those.
And you can see at the top my objectives for this interview and for my next career.
Good.
Thank you for having me.
I hate paper. So let's get started. Why don't we begin by you just telling us a little more about yourself?
Sure, I'd love to. So I grew up in the area, and I really enjoy reading, running, working out.
How much do you bench? You know, we believe in behavior-based interviewing.
Okay, I'm familiar.
Good. So that's the format, and we just want to get a sense of some of your experience.
Choose one of these cards for me.
Okay.
I want you to act out what's on that card.
You mean like charades?
More like behavior-based interviewing. Go.
Mother Teresa, clean it. Hokie Scott. Ohio! Yes!
Okay, so breaking lots of rules in that interview. Thankfully, after today, none of you should break any of those rules. We'll talk about legal to close. But so behavioral-based interviewing is not charades. It's not you acting out something. So what is it? Well, it's a form of questioning. It's the way you phrase particular questions in a way to get a desired response that will help you make more effective hiring decisions. So it's prompting you to answer what a past experience is. So, for example, instead of asking, what are your strengths? That question is not a behavioral-based question. What are your strengths is not behavioral-based. But a behavioral-based form of that question could be, tell me about a time when you went above and beyond, when you excelled at something. But the reason that question is behavioral-based and the other is not, because it's asking you to tell me about something that has happened to you. So a story, an event that took place in time where you demonstrated some skill. That's giving me more information about you, because you can lie pretty easily in an interview. You can make up your strengths pretty easily. But if I ask you to tell me about a time where you're having to demonstrate that skill, it's a lot tougher to get the details right, especially as you probe. So the manager can ask follow-up questions to that original question. Maybe they say, well, okay, let's park on that question for a minute. How did you react when your teammate didn't give you that piece of information? How did you handle that? And so the interviewer can probe deeper and deeper, and maybe that probing question helps me see, oh, this is how they work on a team. And so when you're asked these probing questions, it's harder for you to make up a story as to what you did. And so it helps managers know whether you're telling the truth or whether you're making up something you think they want you to say or what they want to hear. That's important in an interview because you only have a limited amount of time with this person to decide whether they have the skills and whether they're going to be a good culture fit for your organization. You want to get a truthful representation of that person. Lying can get in the way of that. What else can get in the way of that is if someone is nervous and they just aren't responding, they're not comfortable to respond the way they normally would outside of that kind of pressure. So I'm going to give you some tips on how to overcome both of those issues in interviewing. But it requires practice and preparation. It is actually hard. You can't possibly practice enough for every single question out there. So what we do is we draw from a number of our most current situations and challenges to tell stories about, and I'll get there as well. So it's all based on tell me about a time when. It doesn't necessarily have to start with tell me about a time when, but it has to get at that past experience. If you just Google search behavioral-based interview questions, you will come up with scads and scads of examples for this. So why, again, it's because 50% of people lie in an interview. It's just the nature of it. Some people are very intentional and crafty in how they lie, and others are just lying because they really want the job, and they are trying to come up with something that makes them more relevant. It's not always a malicious lie, but people under pressure aren't as honest, usually. And so 90% of the hiring decision is based on your attitude. I can assess your attitude much more effectively if you're telling me a story and giving me context and telling me who was there and telling me what the challenge was. If I get all of those puzzle pieces, I get a more accurate representation of what your attitude is, and I can make better decisions because of that. Also, past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior. So if you acted one way in that situation, the likelihood of you repeating that same behavior when that organization hires you is very strong. Unless you can show what you learned from that situation. So if they're, on the flip side, if they're asking you about a weakness, a time that you failed at something, and you share what your behaviors were and why those were not helping you be successful, that's how you turn a negative into a positive. Then after you can show that you've learned from that situation, then it's not necessarily predicting future behavior. It shows if you're a good conversationalist. So can you add stories? Can you communicate effectively? That might be really important for the job at hand. And it's a legally defensible tool, so that this behavioral-based interviewing and that line of questions can stand up in the court of law. So there tends to be a lot of lawsuits related to, are you discriminating against someone, and what kinds of questions will lead to discrimination over others. This one is defensible. Any questions so far as to what it is? Okay, so what you're going to do for next week, and actually by this Thursday, I would like you to have you decided on what job you want to apply for. So this summer, we're going to pick something that some job that you would like to apply for this summer. And the more realistic, the better. If you already know of a job you're hoping to get when you leave for summer, great, bring that one. If you're not sure, you're not even sure if you're going to work this summer, still find something for the purpose of this exercise. But the more realistic it is, the better value you get from this, because you're going to tailor your resume. So in other words, the way you write your resume and the kinds of skills you highlight, they should align with the job that you're seeking. And so you get extra benefit from this exercise if you're already doing that work. So you're going to tailor your resume to that, and someone is going to interview you based off of that job. And so they're going to craft questions that help them as a hiring manager know whether or not you're a good fit for the role. Does that make sense? Did you have a question? No?
Yeah, I was just saying, like, if you already are just like, if you have a job and you're just going back to it for the summer, is it?
No, pick a different job, and so maybe you are going back to that job, but pick another job, either, maybe it's another role that you'd like to move, another position you'd like to move up in that same company, or maybe it's further out, maybe if you're thinking about internships for the next summer or so, a company you'd like to work at, pick one of those.
Okay.
Questions? Okay, so a couple resources, well, really one resource and one example. So, has anyone in here used the College Central Network, CCN? Tori, yes? Okay, so you're familiar, you have a registration link on there and everything? Okay.
Yeah.
So, CCN, I just wanted to get a gauge how many of you know what that is. It's housed under the CDC, so the Center for Career, CDC?
Yes.
Career Development Center, yes, okay. So they have a network with other college networks to host various job opportunities, both full-time, part-time, internships for current students and for alumni. And you can tap into the JDU CCN network and view jobs that employers are specifically posting for JDU grads. So we've built relationships and networks, and for one reason or the other, they want to push out those jobs on the CCN. So if you go to this link, and I'm going to post this website for my later class, so if you want the link, you can. So it'll ask you to register. If you go to Student Central, you register, and it'll find John Brown University for you. Okay, and then, oh, sorry, never mind. You have to do register now. Ask you to type the school, search for that, and eventually what it will do as you fill this out, then it will send an email to our CDC. So Brittany Ladner is in charge of it, I think, and once she approves that yes, you are a student at JDU, she will give you access to the JDU page. And this is what that will look like. And then I'm an alumni, so I filled this out earlier. You can put your preferences, so what kinds of jobs you're looking for when you fill out the registration. It'll ask you what field you're in. It'll ask you if you're looking for jobs within 25 miles, and you can increase that range or you can decrease that range. And it will help you navigate the site more effectively based off of those preferences. And so you can look at search postings in my school. I think I want to do that though. I just wanted to look, let's say marketing jobs. And I can fill out several criteria to help me narrow it down. But say I was willing to move to San Diego, I think you can even qualify if it's an internship or not. And it will take you straight to a link with the information and the qualifications that are required for that job. And then you can save that job. So if you're looking, and often you are in a job search process, you're considering a number of jobs. And so you can save that into your personal folder, and each job has a unique code that's attached to it. And so you can look up that number and it can send you updates if there's any changes with the posting. But what you're going to do for Thursday, for this Thursday, you're going to pick a job at a company that you want to apply for, and then you're going to copy and paste information about the company and the job itself into a Word document, and you're going to bring that to class. You're going to print it off and bring that to class. Yes.
Does it have to be from that website or can
No.
it be? Okay.
Yes, it can be from anywhere. I'm just giving you a research tool if you're not sure where to find jobs or where to start. That might be one place, but no, if you, so another example I had up here, was Nestle Purina. They're based in St. Louis, and they offer a number of internships. So if you go to their website, and this holds true for most websites are organized like this, but you would normally scroll to the very bottom of their homepage, and it would have a link to career opportunities. And then you can click on that, say you want an internship. They have accounting, they have engineering, they have supply chain, they have a number of internships. So it's an accounting internship. And here you'll find some information about the job. This is very important because we are evaluating and critiquing each other and the way we interview and our resume based off of the job specifications. If we don't understand the company culture and we don't understand the demands of the job, then we have no idea whether that person will be a good candidate or a good fit. And we have no idea whether your resume is going to stand out in a stack of 50 resumes. So we have to have these details about the company. So you don't have to write anything for this assignment. It's completely copy-paste. So what I would ask you to do is just open up a Word doc. Go, if you'll try to put it in smaller font so that you're not printing off, hundreds of pages, but just copy it. Make it look a little nicer, that's fine. But add any important information like our values. It's both your technical skills and how you culturally fit. So I need to know both information about the job itself and the company itself. So a bigger picture view of their values, you can copy and paste that. This is underneath the umbrella of Nestle, so it might even be helpful to go all the way back to Nestle itself. Like most companies have an about page, Nestle is just a really big company. So about us page, that will give us a little context and background. This one is a little more difficult because they've made it super interactive. So it's harder to paste the information, but that's important to include in the Word document as well. Any questions about what's due Thursday?
So does there have to be like a position, or like, let's say right now I'm looking for my internship? Like the problem I have right now is that they want to do like an interview, but like I have to be there, so I'm like they told me at the beginning that sure they could have me on an internship, and now it's like I asked them if we could have it through Skype, and they haven't replied. So I need help, because it's been already a week, so I want to know.
Maybe check with me after
Yeah.
class today, just because I have to
please.
run over to Leadership Week events, but talk to me, come by sometime and let's talk about what would work for you. Yeah, I want you to get the most just practical value from this, just for yourself. This isn't just an academic exercise. This is work you can have done before the summer that will help you, or before your future internship that will help you. Okay, so even for this one, you would just copy and paste it over. You'd have to actually find the link to this company. I'm not even sure what the company is, but I'm sure it's... What? Oh, it's Geico. Oh, okay. I thought that was a banner ad. Okay. Okay, so moving on. I kind of paused this to show you what your assignment is. And what will happen is I'll collect those from you, and then I'm going to redistribute those around the room. And then you're going to get somebody else's job that they're applying for, and you're going to craft some behavioral-based interview questions to then interview that person. Sounds like fun, right? Mm-hmm. Yes, it will be a lot of fun. Okay. So step one, then we're going to the manager's perspective. This is the hiring manager's job as they are seeking to fill a position, or maybe they're creating a new position. And so the first step in the process is to write the job description. So let's think about this as it relates to hiring a new business faculty or a faculty person in general. What kinds of characteristics, skills, and abilities would you look for in your teacher? You start listing them off.
Human skill,
Human? What do you mean by human?
working with more people.
Sorry?
Working with more people.
Okay, works well with others. Pretty important for this job. What else?
Competence.
Competence?
Yeah, like they know what they're talking about, like they're, with this being in college, they're knowing their stuff.
Right, so whatever their respective field is, you want them to demonstrate some level of competence in that, so knowledge of their field. Okay, what else?
Communication,
Communication,
communicating what they know.
communicating what they know, yes.
Not just knowledge, but experience in their field. 'Cause it makes it-
Okay, so some experience, some results to show for. Okay, what else? Right here at JU.
Faith.
Faith. Faith is pretty central. We do not require students who are applying to be of a certain faith and belief, but you do sign a covenant. But the way we hire faculty is very much in line with our core beliefs, our articles of faith. Yes, what else?
I'd say adaptability. I mean, each class, like our class has a different culture probably than the class that comes after school. So like you want different types of students as well. So being able to adapt well with your different classes.
Definitely. I was offered a job out of college, and while I was entertaining this job as well, and I told him I was leaning more towards this one. And he said, you're gonna get bored teaching. You're gonna teach the same field day in, day out, and you're gonna get bored and you're not gonna be challenged enough. That is a complete lie. I could teach the same class over and over and over again and never have a shortage of new ideas, because the people change and the field changes and the culture of each classroom changes and I change. So there's this constant adaptability. If you have a passion for teaching, which I would say is another dimension you might be looking for, is that passion and that connectedness. So you could be looking for a number of things, and honestly in interviewing processes, sometimes the skills and abilities that you're looking for at a certain point in time might be different than other points in time. So if you want a program builder, so for example, don't take this as truth, I'm just throwing ideas out there, but as we are starting a new entrepreneurship minor, the skill set for someone to build that program from scratch, because it's non-existent right now, looks a lot different than someone coming in that we're asking them to already kind of teach pre-existing curriculum. So the personality type and the skills that we might be looking for in that particular individual could be different. So for writing the job description, the first step is to analyze what is the job going to entail. And you have to start crafting out this paragraph or this explanation of what it will look like. And the reason you write a job description and you publish that job description is because you want to attract someone who's going to fit that role. And they're going to be happy in that role. You don't want to lie in your job description and make it sound more fancy or attractive than it really is, because as soon as someone gets to that role and realize what it's really about, they're going to leave that role. I knew a missionary couple, went through the whole process of raising funds, moving their entire family, all of their belongings out to the mission field, and they were told they would be part of children ministries. The leadership found out they had a background in engineering and asked them to be a part of something completely different as part of the services to the mission base. The family left. That's not what they were hired for. That's not what they understood they would be doing when they moved to that mission field. Within 3 days, after going through months of fundraising for that, which I can tell you firsthand, it's hard. It's selling yourself and your mission, and that is a hard thing for people to do, and to trust in the Lord to move your family millions of miles away. That is tough, but they basically did a bait and, no, not a bait and switch, but they switched on them as to what they asked them to be a part of in that ministry. That's not fair. When you are publishing a job description or a role, or on the flip side, when you are interviewing for one, that is a promise you're making. It's a promise between the organization and you that what they say you're going to be a part of is truthfully a representation of what demands and responsibilities will be on your plate. And when you come and interview and you answer questions that they ask, that you are giving a truthful representation of who you are. And when both are accurate and the promise is full of integrity, that works out for the benefit of both. And so it is a good idea to seriously analyze what is the job going to entail and be honest about that with the applicant. So look at what the essential duties are, the tasks, the responsibilities of the job, even the context. Is there a lot of structure? Do you work over weekends? Those kinds of questions matter to people applying. Ask about what the work activities are, the workflow, we know what that is, workflow, the degree of supervision, knowledge and skills needed, performance standards, working conditions. All of those need to be included. So you can imagine how different a job description to be a fireman would look like for someone who's working at UPS to someone who's going to be part of tax preparation. All of those responsibilities and jobs and structure and dynamics look really different. So you want to do your due diligence to accurately reflect that. First through job analysis, then by crafting the definition. It should be clear and concise summary. It should specify the tasks. You won't list exhaustively all the tasks. You're never going to be able to fit all of that into one description. But it should accurately show the majority of what your day-to-day life will entail. And then the job specs. So oftentimes as you guys look for that information and you copy and paste it, it's more bullet point information that's related to the qualifications or the skills that are necessary to carry out the responsibilities that are described in the paragraph above. So if you need a certain degree, level of degree, there's certain physical abilities. So for UPS, they usually publish how many pounds you need to be able to lift to be one of their carriers, right? Unless you can tie that to the explicit mission of the organization, that could be discrimination, especially if they have a disability and you're not showing why that ability is important, then you could be sued. Other characteristics needed to perform the job. So you analyze the job, then you're ready to write the description, and finally you are ready to post it as a realistic job preview for potential candidates to search and find and apply for.